What's up, everybody? Welcome to the episode of Dev Unchained, the #1 game development podcast about game development and the lifestyle thereof. I am your host, Brandon Pham, and joining me, a special guest, and I'm going to butcher his last name. I'm going to try my best, Igor Puskaric. Am I correct on this?
Close enough. Hello, everyone.
All right, Igor. Thank you for joining us. This is the part of the podcast, of course, that we ask about a little bit about your background, where you are, where you're heading, just to give our listeners and viewers out there a little bit of idea who we're talking to this hour.
I have been involved in game dev for about 9 years now. Been all over the place. Had a lot of clients, and now I'm doing my second game ever that's gonna come out with Space Jar.
Nice.
Hopefully going in the same direction as before, but better.
So
doing art. Yeah.
So I'm pretty good with accents, right? So you're. It doesn't sound like you're American. Where exactly are you're from right now?
Yeah, I'm Eastern Europe, Croatia.
Croatia. And how?
Like country.
What was? Did you go to a traditional college, or are you self-taught?
No, I'm self-taught. At least that's how we say it. Although I got help from other artists early. But mainly self-taught, yeah. Basically what you do is just learn basics and use what you got, and then all the extra knowledge gets kind of glued to that as you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you organically spread it as time goes.
And how's the good game development scene over there in Eastern Europe? I know is it very few and spread apart, or is it mostly driven by
sort of, but
indie?
It's growing a lot lately. Yeah, right. It's like I feel like it's growing exponentially in the last few years. It has been dead. I mean, for a great majority of my professional existence, it was almost dead. It's weird, but it's growing really rapidly now.
Well,
also, it helps because game dev is a world thing. It's no longer localized as much as before.
What do you say is the main impetus to kind of get the game development scene over there growing? What was the main reason in the last few years that has been fueling its growth over in Eastern Europe?
Well, I think it's the general awareness of gaming being a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly pushed by enthusiasts. Because of simply information is free, and more young people can actually engage it, and I think that's the main driver. And then the laws and everything else kind of follows that, and it's always late. But it's getting more and more louder, so I think that's the thing that's going.
That's an interesting thing. So when you're mentioning laws, are you talking about like laws that was restricting from creatives for creatives to actually be into game development, or what type of laws are you talking about that's being lifted or changed?
I mean, like business laws. For example, when I opened my business, we don't even have a category for such a thing. We still don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in the law that's proclaimed a game artist or an outsourcing studio or anything like that. It's weird, but you have to proclaim yourself as something, and it doesn't exist because the laws haven't changed since 2007 in terms of that proclamation, for example. And then the taxation is high and a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly that on the business end. We can still, of course, work for someone else, but then you had to leave the country before, and now with the internet and the freelancer awareness growing, it's a lot easier. But of course, people are the ones that are pushing it. First, they try, they get loud, and then law kind of hears it and listens.
What are the most popular game studios over in Eastern Europe that worldwide people will recognize? If yeah, that you think.
Hmm. I think in Croatia that would be Crow team. They made Serious Sam.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's heard of it.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they're the most popular ones.
Right. Because CD Project is over in Poland, right?
Poland, I think it's Poland. Yeah, they
They're
are
also over
globally
there.
well known. Yeah, they are real awesome.
Yeah.
They are really, really good.
And so
Incredible.
do you think like these studios there that are like recognized worldwide are really helping that region to kind of move things along?
Definitely. Yeah, there's always some giant that is kind of a role model that encourages everyone else. And then like they push the flood behind them, which is
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great intensive for others to go. I mean, there are a lot of people with ideas, and if you gather a team that is both good to work with and full of ideas and has knowledge, then you got something good going in for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is there like
But
a
yeah,
pretty big community over there that helps each other out with you mentioned you're working on your own game right now with the small team. Like how do you guys go about finding each other?
well, uh, the the studio is called Space Jar, and we are basically cooperating. I'm like an outsourcing element. I'm the only artist in the game. How it went on is because I was very active in self-marketing and had some success with some of my models. It probably brought me to some spaces where they saw me,
Mm-hmm.
and they all reached out, and that's how we met. That was a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
They are very capable, so we kind of managed to do a lot in
Mm-hmm.
that combination. We're actually a three-man team,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some pros on occasion that helping us, and we had a great help from two sort of famous people. One of
Mm-hmm.
them is Humbert.
Mm-hmm.
Humbert Chabuel. He worked on Fifth Element as a concept artist, so
Oh,
he
nice.
basically designed the basic tanks and initial buildings, and he occasionally comes in and gives input on how to make things cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Also on the music end, we had Ben Watkins. You may know him as Juno Reactor. He did music for The Matrix.
Oh, nice.
So they're kind of they're more like friends of Space Jar, and we needed help and they jumped in.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt really cool when I entered that team because I was and still am sort of a no-name, but it was great to be surrounded by such talent, actually.
Well, don't count yourself short,
Um,
man. Yeah, I've seen your
I
work. It's
know.
super talented.
Thanks.
And what was it? These connections made through networking of the other two members, or how about it? Did you guys get such high profile people to help you guys with the game?
I think it's. I think we found each other halfway through because as I work as a solo freelancer, it's my job to market myself heavily, which kind of helped them see me, and they have experience on their end. They obviously needed my type of work, and I believe it definitely went both ways. If I can try then with marketing, I would be invisible basically. I'm sure it.
So you marketing yourself is one of the skill set that I feel game developers, even working at big companies. I came from like the AAA industry, right? So I've worked
Mm,
on huge franchises. So my eyes have always been,
awesome.
yeah, it's been cool. But like the thing that I feel that we suffer from that side of the industry is that the self
Mm,
marketing part, being a businessman, being able to be
yeah,
free from the job and be able to get jobs on my own type of thing, right? If I have to.
yeah,
And I feel like indie developers have a leg up with that because you guys are forced to kind of promote yourself, but it opens up
yes,
to a lot of opportunities that I would say that AAA guys don't really pay attention to or know that's out there.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be everything. You have to be a creator, designer, art director, PR, marketing. You also have to be an agency that produces material for marketing. You have to come up with a plan, what order and what way for which platform. It's like you encompass like 5 different people at least, plus your actual work. So it's kind of, it is hard in the beginning. And it's not for everyone, but you need to do everything.
Yeah,
or
definitely.
You can just work for others in a studio.
Right.
That's like,
It definitely pushes
it's
you
different.
to be, very disciplined and very motivated
Sort of
and committed. Yeah.
motivated more than disciplined.
Really?
Because it kind of, I'm not really disciplined. I just feel what I need to do and I just do it.
Oh, that's discipline, man.
So it comes out as discipline.
Maybe in Eastern Europe you have a different definition, but I feel like Americans just have generally over here in America, I think the attitude is very relaxed when it comes to, and I would say borderline lazy, for people to kind of have a goal set and do it. You say it's simple, but a lot of people struggle with that idea because they get either distracted or, at the very worst, discouraged. I mean, they see something that's not working the way it is in their head supposed to work at the beginning, and they just quit. But you're quitters. So you say, but your answer alone, like, already shows that you have this mentality that a lot of people strive for, which is, I sit it out and I'm gonna do it. So I gotta do it.
Yeah.
That's very difficult, man. Is that something that you've always had growing up, or was it something you had to learn through the hard way?
It's a bit of both. I think a lot of that comes out as lazy is because I think their life is too easy. The thing with me is I always wanted to be an artist, but for example, I had no internet until I was 25. So any potential I might have held has been like I couldn't reach anywhere. I couldn't show it to anyone. It was very, very like Stone Age. So that was one tool that is irreplaceable. And also the notion of you working as an artist was like unheard of. It was a completely different world. So I was forced to work on jobs that I hated, basically, or just didn't like. I felt it wasn't for me. And it's a very bad economical situation here. So I combined my desire, and I was also pushed into just stubborn decision to do what I love or die, basically. Like it's this or that. And that's a great, like the fear, not fear, but it's like the obvious situation where you have no choice is a great potent for a strong decision making in a way. And especially when you grow and you have no proof of your success, it's like a stage dive with no people, like pure faith. It's also a great drive, and I think that kind of helped me become so aggressive with the other unartsy stuff.
It's a point that I feel like listeners out there and viewers should really think about, because a lot of success, not just within the game industry, but especially with the game industry and art, is determined by your location. So that's why I keep coming back. It's very impressive, being in Eastern Europe. You're not completely surrounded by game developers, like you said. It is a growing market, right? It's slowly being recognized, but there's still a ways to go. And for you to kind of make up for that by determination and commitment, it's absolutely necessary for you to kind of stand out and be noticed.
Yeah,
Luckily, there's
to
the
no
internet
choice,
that,
effectively.
yeah, there's no choice, but you used to
There's
be
no choice.
surprised. Like, it's like that type of attitude that is necessary to kind of survive and thrive
Mhm.
within the game industry. Game industry is really hard. I'm sure you've heard, plenty of stories of even if people work on their dream job, it's very difficult to keep that job and be competitive and
Mhm.
work within the industry.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It
but
also, yeah, it
yeah,
matters how you position yourself also,
oh yeah, very sought
because yeah,
after. Yeah,
yeah, it depends on like a million factors.
exactly.
It depends how desperate you are. It depends on what's the culture of employment.
Hmm.
Uh, um, it depends on what you're willing to do, how you market yourself,
Hmm.
in terms of the way of work you do.
Hmm.
For example, I don't do realism in humans, so I don't put them in my portfolio.
Hmm. Hmm.
Therefore, I don't expect to be called for it.
Right.
Um, uh, Also, I don't. I don't aim to work in a studio because I love my independence. It's also kind of a character thing, and you just push your way and hope you get lucky.
Right.
That's kind of
But
yeah.
that's a decision I'm sure you made very early on in your career because obviously you probably have
Yes.
family and friends over there. You're not really. I think it's thrilling if you're very young within the industry. It's like I'll move wherever the job is, right? But when
Yeah.
as you're getting older, it's like I kind of like where I am. Everything about my life is great except for I want to work on certain games or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is a decision that you make early on in your career, and it sounds like you've made it.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like to kind of have that mindset of like, hey, I'm gonna make it work, doing what I love, but being exactly where I want to be. Was
Yeah.
that
You
something
have to
that you've
start somewhere.
always? Yeah, start somewhere. Was that something you
Yeah.
really decided early on, or did you try moving around and thought about it as like, you know what, I really don't want to move. Like I really thought it through, and I just don't want
Uh-huh.
to move anywhere.
For me, it's not about moving. Actually, I don't like
Okay.
my hometown at all, and I want to
Right.
move.
Okay.
But the thing with me, I always wanted to find a team so
Hmm.
that we do work on something. However,
I see.
it's so unique and rare that I couldn't find anyone.
Right.
So basically, if I found someone, it didn't turn out well because it just didn't work.
Hmm.
So when I gave up and pushed my own agenda and myself, and then I got found by the right people, ironically.
Nice.
But
Nice.
regarding the solo work, I actually don't like the notion of strict work time. I like to make my own time.
Yeah. I
Plus, I don't
think.
want to travel to a
Right.
studio because I lose like an hour a day is for me it's huge. I can do a lot in 1 hour.
Right.
Instead of traveling to work, it would be a killer, especially more than half an hour. It's like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think I spent half my career, or more than half, um, traveling. And
Yeah.
I recently went full time, but I would say about a year. There was a really good job in San Francisco. I live in Southern California, so it's about 8 hours
Mm-hmm.
away, right? So I decided that because I have a house here,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to move, but I want to take that job. So I took that job, and what I ended up doing was I was away from my family throughout the week
Yeah.
and would fly
Yeah.
back in the weekend just to avoid moving up to San Francisco.
So much energy.
So much energy
So
is
much.
wasted. But
Man.
like you said, as a creative, we don't want to waste our time with other things than to be creative.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially if you have your own like business stuff
Business,
and
life,
all
all
other
this stuff. Yeah.
non-artistic stuff.
Hmm.
It's really time engaging. Like I like work. I work all day basically.
Yeah.
But because I work for myself, it doesn't bother me.
It's more fun. Yeah.
It's way more fun because it's an invest. It's not something that goes through you and you lose it.
Yeah.
You always keep your work behind you. It accumulates. It's beautiful because
Yeah.
of that. Yeah. I would only work in a studio to meet some cool people and maybe out of curiosity.
Right.
That would be awesome for
That
new
that is
experience. Yeah,
definitely a huge element. Just meeting people, being social. But you know, for every good person that you meet, there's like five terrible people.
yeah, I know.
So I'm
I had some
sure.
horrible,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah.
horrible bosses, and I learned that I will never again have a boss.
Yes, and
So
that's
yeah,
the conflicting thing. Yeah, that I've always
that's
kind of
powerful.
went through. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that I always go through with every job place. Is like I love this place, but
Mm,
those five guys over there it just makes
yeah,
every day a little bit more difficult.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
And so you kind of mentioned before. I kind of want to dive a little deeper about how you before you went into self promotion and it started to
mm,
kind of pick up and give you the jobs and types of teams that you were looking for. You were going through this trial of like meeting people and trying to see it was a good fit or not. Can you kind of explain that more in detail about what exactly, well, not exactly what happened, but roughly like, was it just because personalities didn't match or expectations didn't get met up or they're not as disciplined as you are, or what exactly about it
a
didn't
little
work?
bit of everything
Okay.
basically, and it all accumulates over time, where it just bursts your bubble.
Right.
Because first of all, there are no many people who know how to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
For example, and then there's a lot of people who know how to work, but they're very egoistic, like to the point of poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, and basically they're not like fit to work with people as much as you would hope for.
Right.
So it's like a clash of egos thing where
Mm-hmm.
people are making decisions based on them being right instead of what's good for the project.
Right.
And that when that thing happens over a course of certain time, it kills the project. Things are worked over for indefinite times, and it kills your time, it kills the money, it kills everything. It just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
While you sacrifice like everything else, all the chances you missed, you don't go anywhere. It's not progressing. It's just bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a healthy work condition.
Mm-hmm.
And other things were like different people, different teams. People are just lazy. They get
Mm-hmm.
hyped on initial idea, like children, which is great and should, but it's not. It's like it's never kept going.
Mm-hmm.
People get lazy, like in the middle of the project, and just everything dies
Mm-hmm.
off.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I
a lot
totally
of stuff.
see. This is something that I feel again, coming from a AAA background.
Mhm.
It's tough to kind of see that, right? Because obviously, when
Yeah,
I'm used to a big team, everyone gets paid to do their job, and um, I'm sure. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Of course, people get lazy or they're not doing their work that causes problems, but you can hide behind other people and stuff and push the blame.
yeah, a greater team. You have to have more control.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I really like small, multi-talented teams. It's much more
Right.
personal and the work is more effective. It's
Right.
way more powerful because there is no like complex chain of commands where you would lose time
Mm-hmm.
and everything is clear, like in a direct communication. It's for me, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can choose, I would always choose a small, strong team rather than a large
Right.
corporate team.
So have you tried just during this trial by fire before you found
Yeah,
your
yeah.
success? Was it both remote and in a studio type of setting, or was everybody in their separate
No, it's more
homes?
like friends in a garage,
Oh wow, okay.
sort of like that.
So let me ask you that, man. How was
It was
that?
cool.
So especially like the initial idea, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, where you feel like friends are obviously the best choice. Is like, hey, let's make something. Yeah, let's do it.
Mm,
But then you start
sadly, not
seeing,
true.
yeah, you start seeing these issues, right? It's like, man, why are
Yeah,
you not showing up, or why are you not doing what you said you did? Does that hurt?
yeah.
Of course, it affects because now you're business people, right? It affects your friendship. It affects your business.
Sort of.
How was
Back
that?
then we weren't. It's been a while since I was
Right.
in that situation. For over a year, almost 2 years, I've been working with Space Jar on Tanks of the Galaxy, and that's beautiful. And before that, I was with Inner Hero.
Mm-hmm.
with fleets of heroes, and that was also amazing. It
Mm-hmm.
just the only way I mentioned this is because you asked, because it's no longer part of my experience.
Right.
But as you say, trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
In time you just leave
Mm-hmm.
what's not good and keep what is. Basically, it's the only solution, unless you're lucky enough to just have first time luck, which is awesome.
Right.
Like it took me years
Yeah.
to find myself in a situation where I'm pleased with everything, and
Mm-hmm.
then I see someone like 17 years old get a
Yeah.
job in a company. Like, wow.
I hate those guys.
Crazy. It's just insane.
Yeah, I mean it happens. I mean that's what's great about our industry. Our industry doesn't really require
Yeah,
any college degree, or we actually hate it, or
yeah, it's
don't hate it,
beautiful.
but we don't really think about it. As long as your
Yeah,
portfolio is
they're
there,
also overrated.
yeah, it's super
Colleges are overrated,
overrated.
even for non-gaming people.
Mm-hmm.
Don't teach you life at all. It's more
Yes.
like clumping knowledge over as many years as possible without the core knowledge. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, colleges are weird.
No, no,
It's more like
it's
sucking money than actual knowledge,
yeah.
practical, useful knowledge.
So is
It's
that
weird.
because to kind of ride off of that comment, it's like the United States right now is kind of like on a decline when it comes to educational.
Oh, I
When
heard.
yeah,
Heard
the
it's expensive.
increase of college tuition is insane, and even with
Hmm.
people with a college degree are coming out of school with no jobs to go into, and this is not just games, this is overall, right? Because
Yeah, I know.
all the jobs are being automated, right? Even lawyers
Hmm.
coming out like doing legal paperwork, like the initial 4 years are being automated by these big companies of like computers can figure that out, we
Yeah,
don't need you. um
yeah. Only creativity will stay valid, I think, because
exactly.
all the genetic stuff will be AI'd,
Yes.
probably.
So is this something that's happening over there in Eastern Europe? You guys have the same attitude, or are you just a little bit more have a little bit
Well,
more foresight than the
it's more
average
of
person?
it depends on the individual. I mean, many people are not really techie here,
Right.
and they don't even think about it. They don't care.
Right.
But the ones that are kind of, we all kind of understand it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are curious about it know it.
Mm-hmm.
So we do take in consideration like planning future stuff. But school system is so slow, very
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah.
Like it's not in a single step with change. Change is happening way too fast for the
Right.
school system to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's gonna be really crazy. I
Yeah.
think insane. Yeah.
Is college or education? Well, I mean, of course, all countries value education, but like traditional education, is it valued over there as hard as like you have to
Uh,
go to college
yeah.
or? Okay.
It's not like you have to, but it's still valued.
Okay.
And it's not like it's completely useless. But the thing is, the colleges are not organized and planned based on the um, work demand.
Mm-hmm.
So like we have like hundreds, like thousands, hundreds economy students that cannot find an employment.
Yeah.
It's like a school system kind of eats people up through it and then just tosses them out.
Yeah. Spits them out.
Uh, it's not tailored in an
Mm-hmm.
efficient way.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding gaming, there are some school like Machina School,
Mm-hmm.
game dev, but that's more like it's not a college.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a quick course directly through onto the gaming, and that's the only thing.
That's
Like
tough.
these little individuals who decide to go there
Mm-hmm.
basically are the pioneers that are pushing it,
Mm-hmm.
and more based on their example. I believe that official state education system will catch up on it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a demand for professors, and to be a professor, you need to finish more school. And while the industry is going so fast, by the time you finish that school, it will be outdated.
Yeah.
So they hire people that are now in the industry, and that's the only way. Like if you work in an actual studio, an actual game, then you can be a professor. Otherwise, you will not be in tune with times, which
Right.
is something that we need to figure out, I think.
It's
fast.
yeah, it was something that after I went and graduated college and started to work in the game industry, I went back to teach, and it was a weird thing that was happening before I graduated, where they, like you said, they wanted professors with master's degree to teach game design and game development,
Mhm.
and it's like, who are these guys who are not working that has the time to get master's degree in game development? It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, because I know what it's like
Yeah.
with a full-time job. There's no way I have the time to like do this at night or something.
Yeah.
And like you said, eventually
No way.
they had to hire real professionals, because like you said, it's a fast changing industry where you have tools coming
Yeah.
out every day. And for someone to
Exactly.
be
Also,
in a
the
classroom,
system,
yeah,
the system itself is not tailored for creative thought, but for worker mentality. It's like you're not taught how to think, more like absorb data. That's also an issue.
hmm
Uh, also, on the other hand, if you're gonna just learn new stuff, you can learn forever, which is
right,
not good.
yeah,
Because if you just learn, there's so much knowledge in so many directions that you have to stop somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't do anything and never.
hmm
So basically, what I learn is the core of software enough to get me what I need.
hmm
And as I said in the beginning, and then I learn what I need when I need it.
hmm
I don't use my free time to just learn for the learning's sake.
hmm
Uh, Otherwise, I would lose all my time
yeah.
for sure.
It is something that I've noticed myself too, like because there's so much software, so much stuff, tutorials, like you said, that is teaching constantly new techniques, and I can literally sit down for like 3 months straight, kind of going through my list of stuff that I want to learn.
Yeah,
But like you said, without it being applicable, without it pertaining to a project that I'm trying to figure out right now, I'm gonna forget
exactly.
it. Like, I sat.
Me too.
Yeah, I sat down with.
Forget it after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I
If
sat
don't
down
use
with.
it
Exactly.
directly, I like no use. Yeah.
I was sitting down with
And when I
substance
learn
designer. Yeah. And I'm sitting there. It's like,
I'm
I got
also
it.
with the designer.
Yeah. I was like, I don't understand any of this anymore. What is this?
Yeah. So how I learn? When I need it, I learn it, and then I do a personal project only with the new stuff.
Right.
So it sits in muscle memory.
Commit. Yeah.
And then I use it on occasion when it feels like I should. And then it stays with me. Otherwise, no, it's just an info that passes through my head like daily use. I just don't care.
And that's what.
And also, what you said,
Yeah.
the project itself has a character that demands a certain set of tools, and then you acquire those and keep those, which is awesome.
Yeah, the secret sauce to learning is something that we've never taught in school.
Exactly.
Like, they never teach you how to learn. And I would.
And that's the best knowledge, the most important one, how to learn. And how to keep your mind empty when it needs to be. How to unlearn stuff is also important.
Yes.
Like some new knowledge needs from your end to forget the old knowledge, which is very hard. Like new algorithms, like for optimizations, will probably demand maybe different ways of modeling. Maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's something that I feel like a lot of students in the United States are really lazy about. Like, you can imagine we have so much resources around. We have schools, especially I live in LA, right, which is a lot of the studios are there in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I've went to school with students that was able to take out loans or have their parents pay for it, and they just sit there and never did anything with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of love the fact that I think the harsh reality that you went through to kind of gain this knowledge and your ability to succeed within the industry is really necessary with our industry in particular, to not have all the resources available. And
when
be
stuff
like,
is too easy, you don't have the motivation.
Right, you gotta I feel like it's necessary to fight for it, and that's why I feel like the indie developers are in a better position than the AAA developers
I also
because
love indies in general. I
yes,
love all about it because it's small but powerful, like the
very
underdog
powerful.
thing.
Yeah, and
Very
it's
cool,
true.
yeah.
They're
It's
the
true, yeah.
future. Yeah, and it's because of that
Like guerrilla warfare.
Yes, exactly. But it's that mentality that is necessary because the industry is kind
Yeah,
of going through a rough patch right now with how to deal with crunch culture and dealing with people
oh
and
yeah, that's very important not to happen.
yeah. And so
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
without the fortitude that you've built with being an indie developer of like surviving and being able to like
Mm.
really love the craft enough to kind of put the time behind it, I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
always a passion
it's very
project.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also tough. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, the way you're learning and you're constantly learning is something that developers who are in a cushy job, right, don't
Yeah.
really do as much. You'd be surprised. Like I've been in these studios there, people just stop learning new stuff. They just like, hey, I'm doing this one thing for the next 5 years until this game ships. I'm gonna
Oh,
keep doing that one thing, and they forget and
I couldn't do that.
see all the software. That's what I mean. It's a different mentality
Yeah, I
that.
love change.
Mm-hmm.
I love change and experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
So many cool stuff were made after
Mm-hmm.
mistakes like happy accidents. Like we need something. I make a concept and it doesn't pass, although it's good, but it's not like good for a game because of I don't know the direction, the art
Yeah.
direction has been decided. But then the same thing, change the color and it works perfectly on a poster, for example.
Yeah.
Nothing is lost, and mistakes are actually cool as
Mm-hmm.
long as they don't take too much of a time chunk. But the point is learning
Mm-hmm.
and experimentation. That then it's alive. Project evolves organically while
Right.
still keep it consistent with the initial idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
it
with
goes on both from programmer and artist side
right,
and gameplay side.
right.
Again, a day we try it out, hold it, improve it, or
Mm-hmm.
remove it, whatever needs to be
Mm-hmm.
done. And it's cool. It's always interesting. Like it's never the same each day,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I wouldn't do anything else ever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love this dynamics. Yeah.
It's something that I personally am like kind of going through. Like, wait, how would I best describe? I'm going through like a middle age crisis of a game developer right now, where of course, I'm very proud of all the games that I've helped shipped, with like major studios and everything, and had a good career, but I haven't felt like I contributed anything. Period. Mainly because I got in the industry because I wanted to eventually make my own game, and without me kind of putting something out there that I can say that this cannot exist without me, right?
Uh-huh.
Where I can't say that with
Well,
the other big games because the other big games are big, but they would have been made even without my input, right? I was just there to help,
uh-huh.
and I'm at the point in
You
my
mean you
career where
felt like a cog in the
yeah,
machine more than a
exactly.
person?
And this is
I
something,
understand.
yeah, this is
That's
something that
exactly
I'm
what I
so,
don't want.
yeah. And I'm at that
Yeah.
point where, especially with this podcast and talking to so many developers such as yourself who are doing the things that, like, what they're doing is exactly what I've been wanting to do. Um,
Yeah.
and it took me a
Yeah, I
while to
understand.
kind of figure that out. Because I know the other story too. A lot of indie developers, are trying something and they eventually want to work on a big game, right? But I'm always
Yeah, so do
standing
I.
there.
But as myself,
Yeah,
I don't want to work in
yeah,
them. I want to work for them.
yeah, exactly.
Like that, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm standing there, like, it's not that great over here.
I know.
You get free donuts once in a while, but it's not. It's not
Oh,
that. The satisfaction I feel as an artist is like, you get some of that right when the game ships or whatever with a big company, but you can't really just stand up there and be like, "This is me. This is what I
yeah.
helped without my input, a major percentage of the game would not be there. Can't say that with like The Last of Us. You can't really say that with God of War, right? Unless you're the creative director and maybe like some of the
It kind of
leads.
is that like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like the
so,
creative force, the actual creative
right.
shape-shifting force.
Very
Yeah, I know.
few, right? I would say only maybe the
Yeah,
creative director, maybe the art director, maybe, but like anyone outside of
yeah,
that circle is like, come on, you don't. They could have hired someone else. It would have
yeah.
been the same.
It's like
Yeah.
pure production
Hmm.
beyond the point of idea. Yeah,
Right.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So is this something that
Mm.
you feel like you've been 100% able to fulfill? Just being able to work for yourself, self promotion, working in smaller teams is like, hey,
I think so. Yeah,
okay,
I feel like everything I do is like 98% mine,
see, that's what
which
I'm
it
missing.
turns out yeah, like it really is. Like for Fleets of Heroes game, they were awesome. They bought my drone pack, and I took it and I adapted it to have 10 grades of development visually, and they're now in the game,
Wow.
unchanged,
Mhm.
almost. I also designed the buildings. It's like 100% my
Mhm.
design, my production, and I also animated some trailers, which is also, I feel, mine. It's
Mhm.
like I don't have anyone above me. I just have them to say they are happy with my work,
Mhm.
and it still remains mine. Like it's like my child.
Yes, and
And
that's.
very similar stuff is with Tanks of the Galaxy.
Mhm.
I did like 95, 96% of all art in the game. It's like my personal portfolio that everyone can play. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that is because I get like a sense of that when I'm doing. Right now, I'm full time on my own stuff, and I'm working with a few
Mm,
friends on a game. But like I get a lot more
awesome.
satisfaction. Like for this podcast, for instance, right? I edit it, I put it up, it's out there, people can listen. But like
Yeah, it's
that
fulfilling.
feels more fulfilling than me shipping like a
I
game that
know. Yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
It's weird, right? But it was like moments like
Yeah,
that when I was working for somebody where I felt was missing. And it took me a
yeah,
long time to be like, what's going on? I've done the things that, as a kid we always want to work on
yeah,
Call of Duty,
yeah,
Battlefield, whatever, right? It was like, oh, this
yeah,
games that I played. I would love to be on these. But once I got there, there's just creatively, I was not satisfied. Like,
yeah. The logic
be,
was full, but the
yeah,
feeling wasn't there. Yeah, I know.
exactly. And it
Exactly.
took
Yeah.
me a while as an artist to figure that out. And I am glad that I was able to kind of make things work so that I don't keep on doing that.
Mm.
Just showing up to work, doing things I don't feel 100% into. But
Yeah,
talking to
that
indie
matters.
developers, it helped. Yeah, it matters a
Yeah,
lot.
exactly. It matters a lot what you accept, when what you get yourself into, in what
Hmm.
direction.
Hmm.
It's
Because
very
I'm sure you
important.
have like friends and contacts that doesn't have to be in the industry itself that are feeling that type of void, right? Like with their jobs
Yes. Oh,
and
many
it's
people who
all
hate their
types of
jobs.
people. And that's
Oh
that's
yeah,
crazy, right?
yeah, it's insane. It's
Eight
very hard to
hours.
get there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are the working conditions over in Eastern Europe? Is it we have like an eight
It
hour,
depends.
40 hour week type of
Same.
thing. Same thing?
Yeah, we do the same.
Okay.
Some gaming companies are basically very cool,
Mm-hmm.
flexible. Like you have to work your own 8 hours, but it's you don't necessarily have to go there at 7. You
Right.
can go at 9, but then stay longer.
Right.
Sometimes you can work at home. Thing is, the game dev guys are like
Different.
advanced humans
Yeah.
in terms of social understanding because we all kind of came from the garage,
Right.
and it's not that corporate here, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. But the basic other classic type of jobs, that's like terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people can work without weekends for like minimum wage, and horror stories in a similar manner. Again, it depends. Some firms are good, but basically, it's not that cool situation economically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's getting there, but not yet.
Right. Obviously, you mentioned it's a lot of harsher reality over there where you live, and it's a lot more difficult to kind of
Yeah.
do the things that you want to do. Um, and of course, we discussed the ways that you were able to take advantage of that and have a leg up on anybody. Because I'll take you over anybody that has been very cushy in the United States. You know what I mean? It's a different mentality because I think that type of
Yeah,
grit,
because you feel the drive.
the drive, the
Me too.
hunger.
For example, when I have a project and I'm busy, and I trust that client for returning clients, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and I can do the job, but then I know who I can recommend to take that client.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we try to create a network of capable people and keep the clients happy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an ecosystem, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, of work and demand.
Mm-hmm.
We also, as you said, I understand when another solo
Mm-hmm.
artist works, and I see how he works and how he behaves, and
Mm-hmm.
also trust him far more than what you say, cushy people,
Yeah.
because they're flaky. You cannot count on them. And also don't want to recommend someone that is on and off all the time, because I would feel like ashamed for that recommendation probably later.
Definitely. Yeah. It's it's a off and on switch for a lot of people. You feel like because I work
Yes.
with people at work, it's like, oh man, this guy is kick ass. He can do a lot of stuff. But then as soon as you start working extra time, on other project after
Hmm.
work or whatever, it's like you're not even the same guy. It's this
Yeah.
lazy person because I guess a lot of it is it has to do with the mentality, right? It's like this is
Mm.
my life depends on this versus this is an extra
Yeah,
thing
sort of.
for
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if it ships or not. It's like no, man. How you get anything done
It
like that?
matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. The golden middle is when it's always fun and it gets shipped.
Yes.
I'm a fun junkie. I
Hmm.
like to have fun because it's just not cool to work
Right.
on
I
something you
think I think
hate.
there's something to that as you're mentioning. Like it's like
Yeah, it's
people who are
really very important.
right, like people who are used to finish, like a finishing junkie, like being, knowing what it
Yeah,
takes to finish something, see it all the way through, and feeling that satisfaction. People who
yeah,
are lazy, who don't get to the finish line as much, don't know that feeling, so they don't really get to attach to anything
yeah,
past the beginning
yeah.
excitement.
Exactly. You have to feel it to know it, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I do when I work on something, it's usually something I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of get in the zone, and it's like a child playing.
Mm-hmm.
I just work until it's done,
Right.
and I don't have the laziness syndrome doing that. It's not because I'm disciplined, but because it's just hilariously fun, and I just
Right.
do it.
Right.
Unless it's UVs, I hate UVs. But otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, I love everything about
Um,
it.
I feel like they're
From
so
concept to animation, it's just pleasurable.
right, right. I feel like they're very close to having automated UVs. I mean, they're already doing a lot with it,
Oh,
so it's close. It's getting
yeah,
there.
I can't wait for that. I do it apology also. But on the other hand, I love the control I have while I do it. It's like
Hmm.
a love-hate relationship.
Meditative is what I've heard a lot of people say about the
Yeah, yeah,
process.
it can be. Yeah, no, not much philosophy, but just surrender to it.
Right.
Sort of, yeah, like meditation. Yeah, it is.
It's like you're so
Exactly.
abused by the process where you're like, I feel no more
Yeah, yeah.
pain.
So
Yeah.
abused until it no longer hurts. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's how I see UVs. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, have you always been in love with 2D and 3D? Have you, are you starting to get more into effects? Because I've seen the pathway for a lot of artists where it's like get into the art side of things and then they start to get really technical. I mean, where are you in the process with that?
Uh,
Being the one
I
man
like,
show, yeah.
yeah, sort of. Yeah, I just I do basically almost everything except VFX, but I also have desire to learn it. But then we go back to the other point that you just can't always learn.
Right.
Where I am is I like creativity, and what I like is like the idea I need to create, and then this idea pulls out of me,
Right.
2D or 3D or
Right.
whatever is needed, and I just embrace everything that helps along the path. So basically, I'm more of a slave to an idea that pulls in the techniques than the technique itself. Basically, that's sort of how I function.
That's dude, like that's exactly where I am right now as an artist, is where I'm remembering the practicality of learning things. It's like you said before, there was a period where I was like, oh, everyone's into that, I should learn that. And it's like everyone's talking about this, I should learn this. Yeah, that's wrong. Because I would find myself as like I'll get as far as like I get it now, and then 2 weeks later it's like I don't remember a thing I learned. It's just because I never used it for anything.
It's not efficient.
Right. And the way you're exactly the way you're going about it is very indie development centric, where it's like, hey, I have this idea I want to portray on the screen. I either can find people to do it, or I can learn what is necessary and be a stronger artist.
Like, it would be so awesome.
Yeah.
What does it take?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you kind of create like this your own curriculum of studies. It's like, all right.
Exactly. Everything is custom made.
Yes.
Like every pipeline is created. Nothing is by the book. Strictly. Like you ditch the parts you don't need it and accent the ones that you do need it, and show it in a way that it's not negatively obvious. And it works. It's beautiful.
Yes. And I just by changing that mindset, I've been enjoying the process a lot more, because now I have a final goal to kind of see where all this is going into. And I was like, oh, now it's starting to come together. It finally makes sense. It's something it's a useful knowledge instead of just, things that I'm learning on the side,
Yeah. Creative playground.
Exactly.
And you get stuff done. But you're not pushing yourself like violently, like motivation. It's more like inner work, more like inspiration from within you. You're not like chased by the boss, but rather you want to make it true, and just goes out of you. It's more powerful, less, better, and pushes you much more quality way, I think.
I'm finding it also like very helpful now, being somewhat knowledgeable about art, to help with the learning process, because at the beginning of things I don't know much, right? So I'm like piecemealing, I'm trying to figure things out course by course. But now, like, we have some context of how these programs are being used, where we're like, all right, you got to learn this to kind of be able to do this. You don't really need a mentor to kind of guide you through, which a lot of new students would have to have that person kind of tell them, like, you got to learn all 5 of these before you learn this.
Yeah, that is a thing. I think when you're in a stage where you don't know absolutely anything, I think you could use like a course for that, like at least 3 or 4 hours just to get in. And then you're on your own. Although I was self-taught, I wish I had someone to show me, like ZBrush.
Yeah. Yes.
Like first, because although you have the software, but you don't know what its mainstream is, like the main 5 tools.
Right.
How you approach. You don't know what's valued in the industry, like polygon count or the way you do stuff in animation. It's like meta knowledge that software doesn't have in itself.
Right. Experience.
So that's where a person is needed. Yeah. It's best to have a mentor, like for 10 hours to jumpstart you, and then you can go.
Yeah.
But if you're already into it, then you no longer need a mentor. You just need information when you need it. And that's, I think, is important. Like that clash. And then maybe if it's something super high, then again you may need a mentor. If it's something like super advanced.
So I have one last question. What would you say to artists out there that are either students or professionals out there that have less resources than others based on location or whatever else, their best chances of succeeding within the game industry, however they are?
I'd say do the best thing you can do with the resources that you do have.
Mm-hmm.
It has worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
My first job was I learned 1.5 hour length of tutorial for ZBrush, which helped me build my own spaceship concepts that got me the first contact with an indie dev. And compared to what actual knowledge is, I was useless. But this one step that I took a maximum out of helped me get the other resource.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think. Just do whatever you can with what you have, and make it best that can be with what you have, because there's no other choice, obviously.
Well, I mean, that's an important part. You got to make it, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty dramatic, but like do or die. I mean, it's really true. You got to really treat it like that, or else
you cannot make excuses.
Excuses will be so easily.
Don't make excuses, although they are factually correct. Maybe, but factual correctness is not always a path to follow, especially if you're an artist, if you have a vision. Facts will crush you, and vision will liberate you if you are brave enough. I'm sure it. Just you have to be persistent.
Yes, that's huge.
I think that's the correct way to think, and don't surrender, and all the classic stuff that people say, but it's true. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's the only way you can move on to the next step. Even if
that's the only way. Exactly.
Yeah. Even if you are successful, to get to the next stage, you got to be persistent and keep working at it.
Besides that, there's always something unachievable, almost. You'll always have something to chase. So just keep that in mind, and it's all going to be good.
Okay. Well, Igor, we are about that 1 hour mark. This is the part of the podcast where I hand the mic over to you to promote, shout out, give attention to anything or any cause that you want people to pay attention to. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you talk.
Thank you very much. Well, it was a great pleasure to be here. I would like to mention the Tanks of the Galaxy, mobile game that we have been working on, and it's now in soft launch. No, almost, and currently we're taking a sign up for testing. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and official page. Just search for Space Jar and Tanks of the Galaxy. And I hope everyone's gonna have a great fun inside, because we did. And that's about it for now. Thank you.
Well, all links and information will be provided with the video, with the podcast. I want to thank Igor for coming on to the podcast and talking with us. It was super enlightening.
Very much.
And super encouraging.
Pleasure to be here.
And you just make me feel lazy, so I'm going to go back at it and make sure that I keep learning it. It's something that, we got to keep doing, man, to be relevant. Yeah. So I want to thank you guys
keep
so much.
Keep having fun. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Always.
And so that ends today's podcast. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next week. Igor, you want to say bye to everybody before we head off?
Goodbye, people.
Thanks, guys.